I wonder if I can use demonic possession to get out of a parking ticket. Or any ticket in that case. Welcome back, guys. It's been a long time since I've actually done a video. It's been like 6 months or so, but I'll probably talk about that a little bit later after what I'm going to talk about now. And that is the trial case of Arne Johnson, or better known as the demon murder case. As many people know, I love horror movies. I like a really good horror story or anything that has to do with crime, trials. And this is one that actually piqued my interest because the Conjuring 3 has been announced that it'll be released sometime this year. And I'm really excited about it because it's based on the true story about the murder case of Alan Bono, which Arne Johnson committed. But the main question is, was Arne Johnson really possessed by demons when he committed this murder? Now, this happened in 1981, and what made this trial hit the headlines was the fact that the defense team tried to use the demonic possession as a way to prove Arne's innocence. Of course, this didn't work out as well because, how the hell can you prove demonic possession? But before we get into all the details about the case, let's go back a little bit and give you the rundown about how Arne became possessed. Anyway, Arne back then in 1980-81, he was engaged to Debbie Glatzo. Debbie Glatzo had a little brother, David, who was experiencing some of the demonic symptoms, hearing voices, having really bad dreams, waking up in the middle of the night for no reason, seeing an old creepy man with a long gray beard. We've seen it millions of times in horror movies. But in this case, obviously, it's based on a true story, so I guess we got to take it with a grain of salt and believe that, yeah, this actually happened. Now, the Glatzo family obviously sought out medical help, which did nothing in this case. He was still experiencing the same symptoms. He was actually scaring the family a little bit, and some people had to sleep with him and watch him at night because, they were scared that he might be putting himself in danger. So eventually they turned to the church, and the church blessed the house, and that also didn't help. So that's when the church recommended that they go talk to Ed and Lorraine Warren. And you guys know them from the movies, you guys know them from their books. They've done a lot of demonic cases in the past, and obviously the Conjuring universe is basically based on all the work that they have done. Now, you guys are wondering, what does David have to do with Arne? And we'll get into that. David basically was possessed by 40 plus demons. He started talking in tongues, different languages, old languages that nobody would understand nowadays. They experienced David levitating at some point. And of course, the Warrens believed that this kid was truly possessed. Now, Arne, being the good kid that he was, and from what I've read, actually, this guy was a really good guy up until the murder. He was there in support of Debbie. That's the reason why they were living at the Glatzo's home. And, at one of the exorcisms, he did something that you're never supposed to do while in an exorcism or with someone that's possessed by a demon. And you saw this in The Exorcist back then when the priest challenged the demon and the little girl to take over his body, and it did, and then he ended up jumping out the window. In this case, Arne does the same thing. He basically challenges the demon to take over his body because he's older, he's stronger, so he's basically saying, yo, stop picking on a little kid and pick on me instead. And eventually, that's what happened. The demon leaves David alone and goes after Arne. Now, some of the things that happen is that Arne gets in a car crash, which, he thinks that the demons made him get in a car crash just so they can possess his body a little bit better. But eventually, after all this, seems like David goes back to normal, which to me, it's a huge question mark. How does that does it really happen? Then they end up moving out of the Glatzo family's house, so they moved into their own home, and they were renting this home from Alan Bono. Now, Alan Bono ends up being their landlord and also Debbie's employer at a pet grooming place. The weird thing is that from what I've read, Alan Bono was literally hitting on Debbie a lot. And now there's a movie actually out there on YouTube that you should watch, and it's actually pretty accurate and it's pretty campy, but basically tells you the whole story. They just changed around the names. I'll post that down in the comments. From what I've read also is that Alan and Debbie were very friendly, given the fact that he's a landlord, he's her employer, he's taking her to lunch, bringing her food, all this stuff. They're hanging out literally most of the time. Arne, on the other hand, starts experiencing all these demonic symptoms, having bad dreams, waking up in the middle of the night, not remembering things. growling like an animal, which I don't understand why. But anyway, it seems like Arne was suspecting that there was something going on between Alan and Debbie, which honestly kind of makes sense. Arne would call off work a lot of the time to just go hang out with Debbie at the pet grooming thing. And honestly, my understanding is that he was just jealous. Anyway, one day, Alan decides to take out Debbie, her sister Wanda, and her little cousin out to eat. And Arne, of course, joined. Alan, after some drinks, became agitated. And I'm guessing they were having like a discussion which led into an argument. And that's where Arne and Alan become confrontational with each other. At some point, Alan grabs Debbie's cousin's arm and won't let go. Now, Mary, was trying to pull away, but Alan wouldn't let go. And this is why Arne got pissed off at him and went after him. They got really confrontational. Mary and Wanda both went outside. Arne and Alan were all up in each other's face. And this is where Arne pulls out a 5-inch pocket knife and ends up stabbing Alan 5 times. Then fast forward to him dying in the hospital later. Arne fled the scene. They eventually found him all confused, didn't know what the heck just happened. He ends up getting put in jail. But what they say is that Alan had some really, really nasty cuts. One of them was like from his stomach almost all the way up to his heart. That's a long way. See, now that's basically what happens in the story. That's what led to the murder. He claims that he was possessed, and it wasn't even him that claimed the possession for the defense team. The defense team didn't know what happened, so Lorraine Warren gets a hold of the story and calls the defense team and tells them, hey, he was possessed by a demon at the moment of the murder. And it's like, how can you prove that? Now, the funny thing is that they did present this in the court of case, and the judge was like, yo, how are you gonna prove this in a court of case? There's no way to prove demonic possession. And now I've seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which also happened in real life, and now they did a good job in covering that story, so we'll see how this one plays out in the film. And none of the priests wanted to talk. All of them had to stay silent, even though they were there at the time of the exorcism. So maybe the church was just trying to stay out of the spotlight of the media, which to me kind of makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, if the defense team is trying to have this argument, then maybe they could have been subpoenaed, been called to the court, but none of that happened. So the judge had to dismiss that defense, and they had to go with manslaughter, basically saying that Arne was protecting himself. And Arne gets convicted of manslaughter and only served 5 years in prison. So not bad, I guess. Now, the thing is, did Arne really become possessed by demons? I don't know. From what I read is, Arne at some point went back to the well where supposedly there was a demon, and he saw the demon and possessed him. A lot of the stuff says that he was possessed literally for that time frame of when he killed Alan. Also, there's a whole thing about David Glatzo. David Glatzo was possessed for a very, very long time, and for some reason, he's fine. After Arne becomes possessed, David is totally out of the picture. He's totally fine. There's not a whole lot on David after that. It is also said that the Warrens made a book about the whole case, and eventually the Glatzo family didn't like that and sued them because they were exploiting their family, basically saying that they wanted privacy, and the Warrens basically were trying to make money out of David's mental health. So if the family came out saying that, then was all of this a charade? Was Arne really possessed by demons? If that was the case, no. He was probably just jealous at the fact that the landlord was hanging out with his fiance a lot of the time. Even the police said that. The police said that, the reason why this happened was because they were having an argument over Debbie. I can see that. Cutting someone up like that, it's like a crime of passion. You could have used a gun, but I don't really think Arne was possessed by demons. Maybe David. But if the Glatzo family are saying that, they were exposing their kids' mental health, then maybe it wasn't true. Now, obviously, I do believe in evil spirits and all that stuff, but for me to forget that I killed somebody, that can also happen. You can probably go into a mental state of shock and you completely forget what you've done. Shit, I forget things all the time. I forget where my keys are, literally after just setting them down. I'm not saying it's the same, but I'm just saying he probably just was in shock and totally forgot what he just had done. Obviously, it's a gruesome murder because of the cuts that were found on Alan's body, but to me, I don't know. I mean, the fact that it got turned into a movie, the fact that the Warrens created books about it. I mean, there's a lot of interviews online that you can look at. It really was hard for the defense team to even defend him in this case, especially with that. And I don't think it should have been called the Demon murder case, because that only lasted like a day or two in the court, because there was no way for them to proceed with that. It just made good headlines. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about Arne Johnson's case, the murder of Alan Bono. All right, so let's talk about what I've been up to in the last 6 months, because it has been a long time. And honestly, the best thing I can say has been just projects and work. I mean, especially because of COVID, I thought that maybe things at home would be easier for me, but working from home actually has resulted a little bit harder, because one, I'm on my PC all the time, and you would think, yeah, you can edit your videos, but no, it's, you know, my work laptop, and then I have my personal laptop. I can't have both of them running at the same time. And since I'm missing that face-to-face with my coworkers or anything like that, it's harder for me to work on a project faster than I would usually do. And since I'm at home, I actually kind of get distracted, and I want to end up working on different projects at the same time. I ended up turning my garage into like this homemade gym. So if you guys want to follow any of my workouts, I put the workout page here. So I've done that. I've been working out a lot, just trying to stay sane since I've been quarantining most of the time. So yeah, I mean, honestly, that's really been it. But I'm gonna try to do videos whenever I find something interesting. I'm not gonna try to just start throwing content out there just for the hell of it. Yeah, that's really it. But like always, guys, thank you for watching. Stay tuned.